And here we have this king of Israel, Ahab. He never lost his authority. He gave it away. He had the title, he had the seal, he had the throne, but he refused to lead. And that refusal didn't just affect him, like I mentioned earlier, right? Our decisions to let Jesus in or not let Jesus in, to step into these responsibilities or not step into these responsibilities, they don't just affect us. It didn't just affect Ahab. Well, it definitely affected Naboth, right? Later on, we're going to find out it also affected Ahab and his wife and his kids. Ahab abdicated his responsibility as king. Ahab should have been the only one to use the seal. That says, this is from me. It represented his God-given authority as king. And he's given it away, letting Jezebel use it to write letters. And not only did he abdicate his responsibility as king, but he abdicated his responsibility in his family. What's the message that you're sending to, Jezebel, this is okay, you're not saying anything. To your kids, they're watching dad, oh, this is how king leads. This is how you live the ways of Jesus. Like this is how we do things. He doesn't lead with integrity. He allows the release of his authority. He abdicated. Now, sometimes I read a story like this and I go, I get it. However, I am not the king of a small to moderately sized nation. How does this apply to me? Well, I was thinking about some of the different areas that we may have responsibility, and there's probably 3 areas that most of us can relate to. I want to give these just as an examples to kind of bring it like, here's this story, here's what I'm talking about. What might it look like today if this spirit of Ahab or this spirit of abdication is beginning to trickle into today's culture? Because I believe it is at some level. We'll start with our first area of responsibility, the responsibility to our families. Leading with conviction and not convenience. Modeling what it means to walk in the ways of Jesus even when it's uncomfortable. Because this responsibility isn't always smooth or well received. I know this because one of those responsibilities is disciplining my kids. I do it in love, but they don't love it. Sometimes there's tears. There's often what we call big emotions. My daughter will then give me the cold shoulder for the next 48 hours. Oh, yeah, I want mom to put me to bed. All right? You want breakfast the next day? No, I want mom to give me, like it's a punishment. I want mom to give me breakfast. I know what you're doing. It's because you got in trouble yesterday and I disciplined you. And this might play out in our calendars, right? It's our calendars, are they being led by, like, what do we value as a family? Is that driving what we're putting on our schedule? Or, more likely, if we're not intentional and we don't step into that responsibility, our calendars are simply what everyone else wants to do. Well, I want to play that sport. I want to do this. I want to go hang out with that. So, okay, this is what our calendar is. It's just the things we want to do. You know who did what he just wanted to do, regardless of conviction? Ahab. And so as we look at our family calendars, we go, man, does this line up with who we want to be as a family? Or better yet, are we proactively taking initiative, putting stuff on our calendars that we're convicted about as a family? We have a big decision coming up because my son, Benjamin, well, you guys know, you're here at church this morning. He's trying out for Wildcat basketball, the junior program. And it's his process, and first he has to make the team. So we'll see what happens there. Let's say he does. If he did make the team, now we've got a big decision. Because when the practice schedule and the game schedule comes out, well, we don't want him to miss youth group on Wednesday. I mean, we're very committed to coming to church on Sunday. And if all the practices and all the games, we can't work that out with the coach, man, it's going to be a no-go, Benjamin. How's that going to be received? Oh, Dad, you're the best. Thanks for putting limits on me and leading with conviction. I'm so glad you're leading me in this way, even though all my friends are on the team. No, it's going to be a tough decision, right? There was tryouts this morning, and I said, no, we'll take the Monday night option because we want to be at church here. And here's the kicker. I've seen this every now and then too, that sometimes one spouse will defer to the other because they're more spiritual or they've been a Christian longer, however they kind of say it. And so they say, well, I'm not going to make that decision. I'm going to let you make that decision because you know God, you know the Bible better. That's also abdicating our responsibility. We don't get a pass on leading our family just because we feel like we don't know as much. No, hey, let's dive into this together. Let's figure out the Jesus way together. So here's the warning. If we abdicate this responsibility, we leave a leadership vacuum in our household. And our children will be shaped by the culture around us more than anything else. And our marriages will drift towards connection. In our families, I 100% believe Jesus is knocking. He's going, hey, I've got ideas for how to run this family. I've got ideas for how to live in this family. Let me in. Let's talk about this. Let's do this together. And we have to decide, all right, am I going to let Jesus in and let him lead me, or am I just going to keep doing what I want my way? That's abdicating that responsibility. The second area is our workplace, where we clock in, where we make money. And your workplace doesn't have to be just a job. We are placed there by God with purpose, allowing God to come with us into meetings. And when we begin to just rely on our own experience, maybe our intuition, and leave God out of it, our workplace, where we had a purpose, now simply becomes a job. But no, if you're going in with Jesus, when you step into that meeting, guess who else just steps into that meeting? Jesus does. When you go and you have set this environment of, man, this is who I am, and your coworkers get a glimpse of Jesus in you and how you work and how you talk and the stories you share and the way you are in around the office, man, that's a powerful testimony. And I have to think that because people matter to God, they should matter to us as well. And so even though sometimes people are messy, let me rephrase that. Oftentimes people are messy and they're all going through these things like, hey, this person is probably more important than my project. It's not about being preachy, it's about being faithful. So if we abdicate this responsibility to step in our workplace, and we become spiritually silent in the very place God has positioned us to speak, then our work simply, like I said, just becomes a job. This last area is in these moments. We have a responsibility in these moments that I'm going to say God provides. Respond to that nudge. Simply regular moments in life. It's not planned, but there's these powerful opportunities that come up. It's the unscheduled spaces in life. Like you're in Safeway and you're at the checkout stand, right? And someone's next to you and you're like, oh, you get to talk to them. Or you're walking your dog and you walk into someone and they're talking, all of a sudden this neighbor's sharing their story about how they're hurting. Or you're driving, and as you're driving, all of a sudden the conversation goes a little deeper than you expected. What are you going to do? I feel like these are the moments where Jesus is going, hey, I'm knocking. I've got something to say here, and I want to use you to do it. But I didn't plan it. Oh, but I don't have a relationship with that neighbor. But I don't know what to say. Man, Jesus, hey, let me in. We'll figure this out together. This summer, you can even do this in Service Snoqualmie Sports. How many of you have played in a Service Snoqualmie Sports League? Look at all the hands. This is awesome. If you haven't, you should sign up for one. I got to play in Service Snoqualmie Sports slow pitch softball this summer. Don't know if you heard, my team won the championship. Yeah? Did you hear that, Spencer? Yeah. There was this one afternoon. We're playing. We're having a great time. And I see this guy, a bigger guy, and he's throwing a fit. He's going around and he's mad about something. I find out he's mad about a certain person, and he's like, oh, this person's the worst, and they always cheat, and they're always unfair. And he's just going from like person to person to person to person, talking about how terrible this other person is. I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden as Jesus knocking. Hey, you should go talk to him. I think he's fine. I don't think he needs anyone to talk to. And Jesus is like, no, go. My buddy doesn't need anybody to stand up for him. We'll close that door. All right, fine, I'll go talk to him. So I go talk to him, and I say, hey, buddy, I just want to let you know, you're way out of line right now. How do you think he responded? Thank you, Kevin. That's the gentle reminder I needed. I'm so pleasantly surprised that you came up and helped me work through that. The guy was like, what do you mean? He's the worst. And he's just like, he's throwing the tantrum, throws his glove down. I go, you're making my point. Like, you have lost your cool. So the next thing he goes is, he throws his bag down. Let's just fight right now. Right now. Yes, this is what I want to do right now. Thank you, Jesus. I'm so glad I responded to that knock. This is the best. His wife jumps out of nowhere, like kind of bear hugs him and like gets them into the car, and they leave. And I was like, how'd that play out, Lord? Right? So glad we stood up to that. A few days later, I'm just in my office here at the church, and I'm trying to get community groups going. And so I'm inviting people to join groups. And without knowing, I accidentally text this guy. Same first name, different group, and I was just like, hey, you should join this young couples group. I think, being involved with the church, getting community, it's all really important. I'd love for you to join this group. Maybe like a minute later, I get a phone call. I'm like, oh, it's this guy. I don't want to answer this. At this point, I have no idea that I had texted him. I was like, yeah, hello? Hey, you sent me a text. I don't think it was meant for me. What did I text you? I have no clue what's going on. He's like, you told me to join this young married. I've been married for years. I'm older than you. What do you mean a young marrieds group? I was like, oh, yeah, that wasn't for you. Then he goes, hey, I meant to call you this week because I was way out of line on Sunday. I was like, I told you so. I told you Sunday. You were like, why didn't you just listen the first time? I did not say that. I just thought it. But then he goes on, because there's always something behind, right? And he begins to share some of the hurt that he's been going through. And it's this kind of beautiful picture, and I was like, hey, I forgave him, and we got to talk about some real stuff, and I got to pray with him, and I got to point him to Jesus a little bit more. And I'm going, oh, this is what's going on. We have these responsibilities, whether it's in our families to step into the mess, or in our workplace, or even these unplanned moments. And we go to step in and engage. Man, most recently with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, it stirred up people inside. I have to believe that it's Jesus knocking, going, hey, you're stirred up. That's not by accident. I want to do something with this in your heart. And so instead of going, well, what are these all, what are you? Man, open that door. All right, Jesus, what do you want to do with this? Where are we going? I'm going to open that door. In fact, if I've made the decision to follow Jesus, it's my responsibility to open that door.